talking about this co-teaching thing, Darcy. I just don't know what we need to do in changing. But here's another great thing that maybe is not happening so far, and that basically is Chicago schools, and this is another topic, Chicago schools slow to embrace longer school days. And I don't like this. I don't like this at all. I'm a big advocate of increasing the school year and school day, especially in certain areas. We had a discussion on the Total Education Network on, and it was really an interesting discussion we had on Sunday with Jason, the public school guy. And Jason just doesn't agree with me. But I think all schools need to extend the school day and school year. What's your thought, Darcy?
You know, it depends on what we're doing, honestly. I like the idea of extending the school day, but what are we including by doing that? Are we only having more hours of sitting in a room and being lectured at? Because in that case, no, that's a horrible idea. If we're including all the extracurriculars that these students should be doing that a lot of times they don't get the opportunity to do, beautiful. If we're including more music classes, more art classes, more dance classes, more whatever these students need to be more well-rounded, more language classes, goodness, we need more language classes, writing classes, all these things to help these students become more well-rounded that most students don't get the opportunity to do. Beautiful. That's a great idea. I also agree with you that we do need to extend the school year.
Yes.
The amount of education that is lost over the summer is pathetic. It's absolutely pathetic. I mean, you have to look at where our students are when they come back, too. So, yes, I have to agree. We need to extend the school day, but not if we're going about it the backwards way where we just sit and put them in a room and lecture at them. And no more movies.
No
more movies at school.
Come on now. The high school football coach has to stop doing that.
Not even the high school football coach. I mean, come on. If we're talking about watching a movie with Mel Gibson in it, as one of my high school teachers liked to do, just because it has Mel Gibson in it, my goodness, this is not advanced English.
I know. I go against that because I can remember there was 2 movies that completely changed the way I thought about things. I always remember I was in 7th grade. I had Mr. Gannon as my social studies professor. This is still fresh in my head. We watched a pre-World War II propaganda movie about, black and white, about how the Soviets were great, they're our best friends, we're going to help them win the war. And then a post-World War II propaganda movie, how they were horrible and they were the worst people ever, back to back. Mm-hmm. And seeing those next to each other just opened doors for how I saw how things were manipulated. And I thought it was amazing. So there's certain movies that I think are amazing.
Oh, yes. Well, if we're showing the ones that are actually educational, yes. But do you remember the one that was Looney Tunes characters playing basketball? We watched that.
Well, we didn't.
Oh, no, we didn't do that.
Why?
We didn't
do that. That's what I'm talking about, is the teachers who are just like, oh, we're just going to watch a movie. No. But if we're talking about the kind of movie that talks about something that's historical, thank you, Space Jam. Yes.
There we go.
Why was that shown when I was in middle school?
Well,
3 days in a row.
So I'm not, Darcy. I'll make sure I don't get in trouble for that one. Okay. About public education. So no, what I'm saying, Darcy, the reason how I would do it extending a school day is very simple. Parents we need to have a long day for one reason, but we don't have to have the teachers there the entire time. This is where you look at the practicum teachers. You look at tutors, and that you have a day where the kids are fed there, everything. And then this is certain schools. Other schools still 5 o'clock because the number of parents that are working, 2 parents in the house that are working, is a huge percentage now that you don't want them to go home to an empty house. And Jason, the public school guy, completely disagreed with me and said, No. So you're advocating that school is a safer place than home. Yes, if the kids are not being monitored, I believe it is. And to feed them, to provide the tutoring for certain ones while others are in extracurricular activities, because some kids don't want to be in those extracurricular activities. Maybe that will make them want to join if they have to stay at school till 6 o'clock. But again, this is something that we need to do. We need to reinvent what education is. There's no longer lots of moms staying home anymore. We're having a lot of working families, or a mom that's just working with no father at all. So we need to have a longer school day. Adam, what do you think? I think you're agreeing with me on this.
I would love to have a longer school day. I could say that, especially whenever I was in school. I know as a kid, I would have liked to stay at school a little bit longer. Not that I didn't like being home. There was just so much stuff to do. Mm-hmm. And it would have been nice to have it extended, especially now whenever we find a lot of things that I thought were important being moved to once a week. Any type of social science, almost any type of music, those things in the districts I look at are been moved back just to be able to extend those back. Right. And also for extending the year, yes, because so much is lost during those summer months. Mm-hmm. And you spend the last 2 weeks doing nothing. You spend the first month recapping. Yeah. So it's like you're losing 1/4 of your first semester just doing rehash work. And yet, I'm not saying take away summer, but I'm saying break it up. Don't, give them 3 months, because if not, you're losing so much during that time.
Right.
And the importance of this is that we need to be able to provide a safe haven for kids, especially in the most dangerous districts. The reason why certain charter schools are successful is they feed them breakfast, they feed them lunch, they feed them dinner. Mm-hmm. They have tutors one-on-one after school in these charter schools because they don't consider it double dipping, or they don't consider it breaking the union code. So those are the reasons. So one-on-one tutoring programs across the country is one of my big things. Another thing is extending the school day in the school year, because we need to get teachers out of the classroom that are looking at it as this is a job that's not like any other profession, because it's more important than any other profession. So you can't have it that it's 182 days. I get my summers off. I get to go home at 3 o'clock. We really have to end that. And I'm sorry to my wife saying this, because the truth is that teaching is becoming so important now. The way we change lives, we need to train these teachers. We need to pay them much more money, and we're talking everywhere across the board equally. Not that one major district, because of the taxes, get paid more than another district. Teachers need to be paid well, and they need to see this as important as the healthcare field, because if you could ruin a kid for life by being one teacher could ruin a kid for life. Right. What's your thought?
I completely agree with you. I honestly, Neil, we need to start a school.
Oh yes, the Total Tutor Academy. We're ready to start it. A charter school. Exactly. I'm ready for it. Whenever we want to write a charter, I'm ready, Darcy. Let's go ahead and take out all over the country. Let's be better than Propel. Let's be better than all these other charter schools, because ultimately we need to affirm the teacher, but yet we have to have high expectations. And It's great to see certain charter schools, but the ones that are just trying to make money, no. Right. Then go ahead and start your own private school. Then you can make money. Go ahead and start your own university. Then you can make money. Yeah. Then you can make loads of money. Right. So then that's the thing. Or start a business. Be an entrepreneur. Don't take the money out of our tax dollars and think that then I'm going to make money off that. No. Just because the economy's bad, we don't go ahead and do that. So let's continue with this whole longer school day. Why do you think teachers are opposed to this?
Well, I know some of them, teaching in my field, teaching and medicine are two of the things that are always at least a decade behind for how things go. Not for technology-wise, just where they're very slow to change. I don't know if it's inherent in the system or it's just it draws those type of people. That's part of it. For some of the older teachers, this is the way it's always been. Why are we changing it? I've seen fads come and go. This is just another fad. And I think for some of the younger teachers, not all, not even the majority, it's why am I going to put in more work? Especially in districts where they're already being overtaxed, and really when their classrooms are full and they're finding themselves not having resources, why would they want to have an extended day where they already feel like they're overwhelmed? Right. Now, I'm not saying that's majority, but that's some of the pushback you're going to get when you're looking at extending days. Now, I remember whenever I was in school, that's my frame of reference, I stayed after school all of middle school because I needed tutoring in a lot of subjects, and I appreciate it. I don't think I would have gone on to a university without that tutoring. Mm-hmm. And it was one-on-one. The teachers were volunteering to do it. They took turns. I had at least 3 different math teachers I saw during the week. But it made a difference. And it's just getting people that want to make a difference. But one of the best ways to do that is to make it normalized. So that it's not just, oh, you're going out of your way to give up your free time to do this. And, hey, we're all going to do this. And this is part of teaching.
Mm-hmm. That's so important. I mean, to be able to have that one-on-one experience, to be able to help kids. Because I think that this is a helping field, and a lot of teachers out there really get burned out very quickly, and they see that this is not making a difference, and it's a mistake. It's completely a mistake. We need to revamp education, not this whole change it, because, again, there's so many people against this. We need to kind of say, what did work? and really the graded schools, as I was listening to one of the broadcasts that was rebroadcast on one of my syndicated stations on Thursday, and I was driving around listening, and I said, Darcy's completely right that maybe the graded school, we need to get rid of it. We can't look at the age of the student. We need to look at their ability level. So that would be really a way to improve it as well.
Yeah, and Neil, it's always nice to hear you agree with me. So
well,
even if it's after the fact.
It's after the fact just because of time. And that's the essence on this great education talk. But again, the way to go ahead with this long school day and extending the school year. Extending the school year is another big thing. I guarantee test scores increase if you do these two things. But I guarantee, and I told Jason doesn't believe this, that 40 to 50% of the profession would leave if we did this. What is your thought?
I don't think so. Well, let's put it. I would hope not. I would think about 1/4 of them would definitely leave if we extended the school year and we didn't have a real summer. But also touch on what you were talking about just like 5 seconds ago, for getting to see Darcy's point of view. I think that is one of the biggest parts of a great teacher, is you have a mindset, it works. You find new information, you mull it over. If it works, you're able to incorporate it into what you're doing. And then you work with it from there. You always have a new set to work on. Not everything you have is going to be the best, but taking on new things to incorporate into teaching to become a better person.
Definitely. And I think that what we do here at the Total Education Network, even though we don't agree on everything, our minds and hearts are to improve education. And we are going to do it. And we're going to do it through the media, because guess what? Everyone's missing the boat. The media is where we can change things. And then we can highlight what's going on that works. And I think that these two things work, but I'm sorry, Chicago. And again, we're on in Chicago. I'm sorry, Chicago. You have to embrace this long school day. You have to embrace an extended school year. Yeah. If we don't do these things, we need to make changes. And these are big changes, not like the March on Washington, D.C., where they just said, let's change everything we did before and go back to what it was. No. So in 30 seconds, Darcy, what other ways would you change school? Because, again, Darcy knows what she's talking about.
Oh, thanks, Neil. The other ways I would change school. Okay. Goodness, that was really quick. Longer school year, longer school day, more highly educated teachers, and a more variety of classes and teachers that we could take throughout the day. So if you don't do very well thinking first thing in the morning, fantastic, you have gym, or you have dance, or you have singing.
Individualizing.
Something like that.
That's
right,
awesome.
Exactly.
Individualizing instruction. I need to get my co-host to start blogging at totalbookblog.com. I will make sure. Jason, the public school guy, is the only one blogging right now. Blogging is the way you're going to make a difference, because bloggers, you wouldn't believe it, sometimes are bigger than radio hosts. Well, we're going to take a break, and we'll be back with some more great education talk. You're listening to the Total Education Hour on the Total Education Network. Remember, www.totaltutor.org for more information. We'll be back in just a moment.
President Roosevelt signed the Bill of Rights.
I've always appreciated the American Legion.
My gratitude to the American Legion.
Thank you all of the American Legion.
Well, we have millions of veterans that are members of our organization.
Thank you.
The American Legion, celebrating a legacy of service to America. Find out more at legion.org.
She passed away about 6 months ago. It was really hard to learn that there was no cure. So we sought hospice care. The hospice people, they really helped. They made her feel comfortable. And they helped me and the girls, especially the girls. They're helping us get through this loss. Now, hospice people, they're good people. They're really good people.
There comes a time in life when you need government information,
and you just don't know which way to turn.
USA.gov.
Find your Social Security benefits online.
USA.gov.
Our list of jobs will put you on cloud nine.
USA.gov. Shop auctions for a used minivan anytime. USA.gov.
It's government made easy
for the people. USA.gov.
There's another name for freedom on the road to American man.
We're back to the Total Education Hour on the Total Education Network. And again, it is so much fun being in a studio. It's not like when I do my show in my basement 5 nights a week. I want everyone to come to the basement. But I want to welcome to the program Juliet Eilprin. You're the author of Demon Fish. Thanks for calling the program.
Hi, thanks so much.
Now, again, Demon Fish. I know what the book is about, but tell us, what are demon fish?
Well, it kind of depends on who you ask, but what I would say is it's of course the sharks that swim in the ocean to those who buy into the myths that we've had for so long about how terrible they are.
Oh, so it's okay. Very, very interesting. So why did you think about writing this book?
Really, it's because I've been interested in writing about the ocean for a while. I covered the environment for the Washington Post, and I started doing this in 2004. And basically, I decided I cover lots of different things, whether it's climate change or what's happening with forests or, all sorts of things. But there's still enough mystery in the ocean to really make it intriguing. And so that's how I got sucked into it. And then there was a scientist who snookered me into getting in the water with sharks in 2005, which shows you how gullible I am. And I agreed to do this. And it was really that first moment. This was in the spring of 2005. I went with some researchers to Bimini in the Bahamas, and I got in the water with them and was just fascinated by how they operated and just this idea that it really was a totally separate universe that I was kind of allowed to trespass on. And so that's kind of how I got into it.
Very, very interesting. And I think that myth of sharks being demon fish, I think that through this book, you really were able to change some people's minds, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, I think that one of the things I'm trying to do is get people to look at some of the preconceived notions they might have and understand that, in fact, these creatures are a lot more complicated than we give them credit for, and not to say that they're, perfect and warm and cuddly, but just that basically they're more intriguing than you might think, and they're certainly more complex than the one-dimensional image you would get from, say, your impression from Jaws.
Yes, Jaws would be the place that you would get that impression.
Yeah, exactly. No kidding. I want to ask you, I know we're talking about a predator that everyone is absolutely terrified of. However, we seem to be able to embrace other predators, if I may refer to them as that, like lions and tigers. We seem to be able to embrace them a lot more easily than sharks. Can you maybe tell us your idea on why we're able to do that?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think there's one answer to it, and I've really tried to think about that a lot for exactly the reason that you're saying, that there is this contradiction. And so I think part of it comes from the idea that sharks attack out of nowhere from the depths, and I think there's something that is so much more fundamentally scary about that than even, you might think that, if you run into a mountain lion or a grizzly bear, somehow you at least think you have a fighting chance, and that you see it coming. And for whatever reason, because that's not the case with sharks, I think we're hardwired to fear them in a certain way. And so I think that's part of it. But I think other parts are really inexplicable. Like you kind of mentioned, I find it interesting. People, love the polar bear, and, it's got maybe the best press of any dangerous predator on Earth. And yet, there was this tragic incident this summer where there was a 17-year-old that was killed by a polar bear. And this does happen. But for whatever reason, we don't ascribe the same kind of negative connotations to something like that we do to sharks.
Right. Yes. Well, Juliet, they are adorable. So, I mean,
exactly. They've got a case to make that you just can't get around that with sharks.
They're fuzzy and cute.
Exactly.
And,
There's no fuzziness with sharks.
Very, very interesting. And now I know Adam has a question.
No, I'm so glad somebody's covering this. I was a big fan of actually a lot of things oceanic, mostly because I loved H.P. Lovecraft, who was terrified of anything underwater.
Wonderful.
Good segue right there.
There you go.
But also, I was thinking for something, if you were ever going to branch off, for the non-native fish that kind of come in and do a lot more damage on local habitats than sharks ever could. Is that something that you look into as well?
That's really interesting. I write about that in my day job. That doesn't, I don't get into that in the book so much, but although I do try to write about kind of the positive role that sharks play in the ocean and how there's just no question that they're in fact a linchpin that helps maintain, the coral reefs that we want and, the balance in the ecosystem. And so, but you're totally right. For example, the lionfish, which is gorgeous. I've written about that. It's so fascinating. This is really beautiful fish that divers love to see, but it's had a devastating impact off the southeast because it's this invasive species that just gobbles, can outcompete tons of other fish in the ocean, or you can see that when you were talking about Asian carp. So there's certainly a lot more aquatic creatures that do more harm than good, whereas sharks, for the most part, are actually a really positive impact on the ocean.
A positive impact. And basically, when you've been writing this book, you're talking about all the positive impacts of sharks, but anything else that we're missing that kind of make it so that we're not going to call it a demon fish anymore?
Yeah. Well, I think one of the other things that I talk about, which I think is, there are just a couple things that I think are might be counterintuitive for people. First of all, people don't really think that we have an evolutionary connection to sharks, but we do. So, for example, the bones in our ears and the muscles that we use to chew and to talk, those cranial nerves, they come from sharks. So, I think that one thing is that if we realize that we actually owe them an evolutionary debt, people might be a little less inclined to blame them for things. And that also there's some incredible scientific advances that people are working on that have been inspired by sharks. And for example, there's a group of scientists that are looking at the electroreception that sharks have, how they distribute electrical currents through their bodies, and how that could, in fact, help us build a better battery. So, I think partially people might think, again, as much as they freak us out, that there are things we could learn from them that actually would abound to our benefit and that might have nothing to do with the ocean itself.
Absolutely. And I think that what we need to do is educate people about this, to figure out ways to know more about the shark. And by reading your book, that's definitely one way of doing it.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm so glad that you brought up this scientific aspect of this. I was hoping also maybe that you could touch on the subject of the use of shark cartilage. I know this is something that comes up. A lot of people use this for health benefits. A lot of people see this as something that's perfectly fine because they do view these animals as monsters. And I was hoping maybe you could touch on that a little bit.
Right. I think this is one of the weird things, this kind of, this faux medicinal use of sharks that crops up in different cultures and in different ways. And so, so people who have joint problems and arthritis have been led to believe that by consuming shark cartilage, in a kind of a pill form, that actually is going to help them, where there's, no scientific evidence. There was this fad where people thought that because sharks so rarely get cancer, that if you consume sharks, again, shark cartilage, that would help. For beauty products, there was for a while people have used liver oil, which is squalene, and that really targets some deep water sharks that are very vulnerable because they reproduce so rarely. Now, and in many ways, there's kind of good news that, for example, with squalene, there's now a company I know of, Amiris, that creates a botanical product which basically does the same thing. But I think part of it is because they have such mythic power, people have kind of ascribed, again, medicinal properties to sharks that they simply don't have. But it's really helped propel their consumption globally, and then that's something that really deserves some attention.
Right.
Definitely deserves some attention. And I know Adam has a question.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with. I think it was the shark thing for use kind of is just ancient, especially when we used to have the dragon bones that we used to grind up for different medicinal qualities. Mm-hmm. It just carried over, and I don't know why it flared up, but thankfully we've gone slightly away from that cartilage back to like fish oil type things, which are a little bit easier to get your hands on. And still not great, but a little bit better. Yeah. Is there any other avenues for if you were going to work on a different book, what you would think about writing about?
Well, I think there are two things. I think, so certainly one thing also that we haven't brought up, which connects to shark cartilage in a different way, is of course, shark fin soup, which has been definitely getting a lot of attention both in the United States and worldwide, which is this, again, it's kind of the status symbol that comes with these noodles that are linked to, that are linked to sharks that get used in a meal that you have to have at a wedding banquet or a business dinner, and so as a result, by using by putting just a few of these noodles that come from the needles cartilage needles in the shark fin, that's something that really is leading to, for example, the killing of tens of millions of sharks worldwide. So I think there's that. And then in terms of what I would like to look into, one funny thing that sometimes comes up is people ask me how smart are sharks, and kind of my general response is that they're smarter than you think, but not as smart as dolphins, which are clearly, if you have to go for a genius animal, you basically probably are divided between dolphins and elephants. And so one thing that I think I want to look at in the future is looking at animal intelligence, because I think that's something where, again, our science is getting better. It's not that the animals are changing, but we're getting to understand them better. And I think that's a theme that definitely runs through this book, and that I want to look in the future, because I think that it confounds some of our preconceived notions about how the world works.
So, Juliet, where can we find more information on you? I really enjoyed this conversation because you've taught me a lot about sharks today.
Thanks so much. Everyone, your listeners can go to www.demonfishbook.com, and that both gives you a sense of the book itself with a video, as well as, shows you how you can get to learn about some of my other writing.
And Juliet, it was an honor again. So you write for the Washington Post, and you've written a lot of books, so I look forward to meeting you at the Miami Book Fair.
I'm looking forward to it, too. Thank you so much for having me on.
All right, take care.
Take care.
All right. That was Juliet Eilperin. You're listening to the Total Education Hour, and I cannot believe how quickly this time flies when we're having fun, Darcy. Thank you, Darcy. Thank you, Adam. Thank you, Darren Campo. Thank the producer, Chris. You're awesome. And the great people. And also I want to thank my other major guests, Amy Hollingsworth, and much, much more. And also, you were going to mention someone else I forgot?
Merlin.
Oh, Merlin. Yes, I forgot Merlin.
And Christina.
Well, I hope everyone has a great week. We'll talk next week with some more exciting education talk as I jet, but I have to run to New York. Good night, everyone.
Savings Man here with a story for you about two young spenders named Tommy and Sue. Their parents let them buy whatever they chose, like video games and designer clothes. As they grew older, they spent all their pay on fancy cars, houses, 2 lattes a day. They lived in the moment, never saving a dime. When they tried to retire, they'd run out of time. Working forever is Tom and Sue's fate, so choose to save now before it's too late. Visit our website to find out more, 'cause a happy ending's worth saving for.
I am Joan Rivers with an important announcement. Getting old is horrible, okay? Horrible.
You're not old. I mean, you're older, but you're not old.
You want to see old?
Oh, God.
Yes. Grow up, for goodness sakes. The last man to hit on me was an undertaker. I know where I am.
I don't want to talk about
Well,
this,
you're going to
Mom.
have to talk about it. It's the future. It's coming right at us. And I'm not worried about dying. It's getting there. I mean, heaven is going to be fabulous. It's going to be a giant shopping mall, and there's going to be 20% off on everything, except for me, 44.
You know, you're doing jokes, and I'm just not ready.
Well, you have to be ready. You have to listen to me. Look, there are things to discuss. They're going to be my needs. They're going to be my wants.
Mom, I don't want to hear this. I just don't want to hear this. La, la, la,
Don't give me la, 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 la,
I
la.
don't. I can't. I can't do
Talk
this.
to your family about aging, even
No.
if they're not ready to listen. Come on, listen to me. Listen to me.
For the first time?
Yes, for the first time.
No matter who you are, it's not easy talking about aging. For help, go to voa.org/talk. A message from Volunteers of America.
Sweet fruit, she tastes like tangerine.
We're back to Total Education Hour on the Total Education Network. We just keep going through awesome interview after awesome interview, and I want to welcome to the program Lynn Barrett, author of Magpies. Lynn, thanks for calling the program.
It's a pleasure to talk to you.
And Lynn, here's a funny little coincidence. Your publisher, we're on the campus right now of CMU.
You are.
Yeah, isn't that funny?
It is funny.
So tell us about Magpies. I mean, I was kind of reading the bio of you and different things about you, and it's interesting. It's what you do.
Yeah, it's a collection of short stories. It's my third collection of short stories, and these are all set over the past 10 years. It's not that it's nonfiction, but they're using as a background the whole kind of psychology of boom and bust, of exuberance and anxiety that ran through from the dot-com boom and bust, which the first story uses through even things like hurricanes, the kind of way in which it kind of conditioned people's experience to be dreading something and going through something. And then, obviously, the real estate boom and bust is in there, too.
Very interesting, because Glenn, you're talking about different historical points of view where people are looking at those times, say, "Oh, I remember when the hurricanes were really bad in Miami," but that always continues. And then I remember about the .com when it was the thing, and then that bust, and then we all know about the real estate bust. So, how do you kind of capture the reader's attention on these short stories, especially with these topics that they're not always the things we want to remember sometimes?
No, they operate in the background, I have to say. But the first story in the book, for instance, is written in the form of a website, and it's set during the .com boom and bust. And we see that the narrator is someone who's resisting it. She's gotten a job, having lost her old job in a more traditional kind of publishing, gotten a job writing content for one of these places that the owners of which are suddenly really rich young guys. They just lucked out, and of course it's not going to last. And so I think knowing that outcome adds a little bit of tension, a sort of expectation, like this is too good to last, because the historic knowledge plays into it. But it's more about the psychology of those things, writing stories about characters and their relationships, than it is worrying about being very descriptive of exactly what happened. If somebody didn't know what had happened, somebody was very young or very oblivious, they'd still be able to read the story.
I see. So basically that's the background, and then the stories that take place are about kind of things that have currently happened in your life, or is it?
No, it's fiction. So I'm a trained liar, and I write stories where I'm inhabiting the points of view of people who, someone might seem to resemble me. Let's say someone's a woman, but there's some of those stories have points of view of men. One of the stories in there, which uses the real estate implosion in Florida, is in the point of view of a man who is pulled into a scheme that his oldest best friend has to fake his own death in order to get away with what money he has left before he loses it all. And that's never happened to me. So it's fiction.
I understand, but maybe there could have been a personal friend that could have happened to. So, or reading it in the newspaper. Always asking these kind of questions.
I do think that reading the newspaper is a matter that comes into your mind. I certainly was aware of the kinds of things people very desperate at the point when they thought one moment they were on top of the world, it was always going to be like this, you're always going to have it, and it's disappearing, and it makes people crazy. And I certainly was aware of that, but I made up my own story then based on that.
Okay. Wow. Well, it seems very entertaining, especially the topics, and then very creative as well.
Incredibly, yes. I was wondering if maybe you could tell us a little bit. I know Neil kind of mentioned newspapers. Where do you get most of your inspiration from?
It comes from a lot of different places. I have to say, to some degree, I hold in my mind lots of things I think are interesting, and then those things will start to coalesce around a particular storyline. So, for instance, the story we were just talking about, I needed to invent a town that the character who's been a developer has developed. I did that, and I set it in the western part of Florida where there are sinkholes, and then I created a whole part of the story using sinkholes. Well, that was just something I'd also heard about and was interested in and read up on, of course, for the story. And I liked the way having your world suddenly drop out from under you psychologically or economically could also be true absolutely physically, that your driveway can collapse and your car falls into it, and that does happen in Florida. So I'm putting things together. It's more that something that seems disconnected connects up to something else that gets me going, I think.
What was your favorite story that you wrote of your short stories in this book?
Oh, no. You can't ask people to choose. It's like, which is my favorite child?
Okay. Well, I think that was a good question. Okay.
No, I mean, there are ones that pose different kinds of challenges, and so I like them for what they made me think about or what they made me learn. And then, people will tell you. In fact, they do it all the time. The book's only been out for a month or so, and so I keep hearing from people saying, this is my favorite story or that's my favorite story, and I never quite know what to say to that. It's like, okay, that's nice, but I like them all. That's why I put them in the book. And I think over time, my experience with previous books has been that what you want is to have enough variety that there will be something for everyone, or every story will have found a readership that particularly likes that story.
All right. Well, one thing that I like to hear about are hurricanes, especially we don't have hurricanes in Pittsburgh. So kind of describe how that story took place with the hurricanes.
This is a story that covers one hurricane season, and importantly, it's after there have been a couple of bad ones, so everybody's pretty burned out on evacuating, which doesn't really work very well in Florida. I will say we had hurricanes getting into the Northeast this year, so no one expected Vermont to get hit, so you can't be too sure you're safe there in Pittsburgh. But I was interested in what it's like once you've been through it and you start to realize that your home, which you think of as protecting you, is actually very vulnerable, and to some degree you're protecting it, to some degree you can't do anything about it at all, and what that does. So the story has in its premise that a group of guys cluster together at a place inland, which are warehouse spaces, and start turning them into their own hurricane shelters, so they can go inland, away from where there'd be a storm surge. But they're spending the hurricane season fixing it up, so they keep buying more supplies and doodads, and pretty soon somebody has a wet bar in there, and so on, and it becomes like a clubhouse. So even though it's supposed to be, an emergency shelter, it becomes kind of a hobby and a preoccupation. And bit by bit, the women the wives don't really like it, so tension results from that, as well as tension comes from them watching storms bubble up here and there, and then come towards them, but not hit them, or come to hit them. So I got to play a lot with those elements, which was really fun.
Well, it's definitely, if you think about Miami, you think about hurricanes, definitely, and not the football team either. anymore. They used to be really good, but they have gone downhill for sure.
Well, Miami would like you to be thinking about sunshine in February.
Exactly.
Yes. Well, we won't be thinking about that for sure in Pittsburgh.
That's right.
That's fantastic. Well, Lynn, I was wondering if maybe you could tell us, as a writer, what is your favorite thing to read?
Well, I do read lots and lots of short story writers, and actually I read a lot of collections of tales of various sorts. But I also read a lot of nonfiction. When I'm writing, I'm more likely to be reading nonfiction because it's not right in the middle of what I'm doing. It'll be a different kind of voice. And I'm pretty omnivorous. I teach in a graduate creative writing program. I'm reading a lot of student work, and I find that, I read that, I work on that, and then I have to read something else almost as a palate cleanser before I go back to doing my own work. So there tend to be piles of books all around me.
Well, that's what best writers are. They read a lot. I mean, that's a great tip for families out there. If you want your children to be good writers, they have to be good readers. Right. They have to be able to read. They have to enjoy reading and picking up a book, because you're not going to be able to become a good writer unless you read a lot, because you'll see what good writing is all about. And you agree completely on that, Lynn, right?
I not only agree on that, I think one of the important things that you do know is true with children is that they like not only to read something or have something read to them, but they like rereading. When I was very small and my son was small, want to hear that same great story over and over. And I think parents can sometimes be impatient about that. Oh no, I'm reading that again, as is true also for I'm playing that song again. But I think that's part of what creates the sense of love and security that people connect to reading, that they have that repetition, and then they start to branch out, obviously, on their own. But I personally like to reread things. Sometimes I have to wait years because something's too clear in my mind, and I want it to fade a little so I can have the pleasure of reading Pride and Prejudice again or something like that.
See, I love hearing the word reread. We don't teach that enough in schools. That, guess what? Sometimes you might not get it the first time, but then you read it and read it over again. You'll understand it, and then you'll enjoy reading it, because sometimes a text is difficult to read. But
that's true, and I also would say that having read the ending, you have a different kind of knowledge of it, and when you reread, you understand that various things are being suggested or set up or established as contrasts and things like that. So rereading is a different experience and a very valuable experience.
Yes, and rereading, but by reading the end of the book, that's a different advice I've never heard from an author before.
Well, I'm not saying to cheat. I'm saying read it once all the way through and then read it again. Or go back and reread the beginning, and you suddenly see the beginning differently than you did the first time.
Now, Lynn, that sounded like the same thing where you said about hurricanes in Pittsburgh. I mean, it's just a little bit of a situation. But, yeah, just to let them know that, guess what, rereading the book over again. Then you understand it. You see more of the characters and things like that. And I think we need to push that more, and I'm sure that you try to do that in your classes. Where do you teach?
I teach at Florida International University, which is in Miami. It's a very large state university, and we have a very good graduate program in creative writing that's been going for about 23 years.
Well, I appreciate you calling the program. Lynn, where can we find more information on you?
My website is lynnbarrett.com, and you can check me out there.
Thanks again for calling the program, and I'll see you in Miami.
Okay, great. Looking forward to it.
All right, take care. All right, that was Lynn Barrett, author of Magpies. You're listening to the Total Education Hour, the Total Education Network. We'll be back in just a moment with, I'm really excited about this author.
And now, another adventure with Savings Man.
Let's live at the beach.
Let's golf every day.
How about a trip?
Season baseball tickets?
Sounds like you're planning for retirement.
Hey, Savings Man.
Are you saving enough?
We are, thanks to the easy ballpark estimate worksheet at choosetosave.org.
Hope you're saving for health insurance.
Absolutely, because health insurance is important. Thanks, Savings Man.
No, thank you.
So visit choosetosave.org and get your ballpark estimate today.
I thought indoor tanning was safe.
They said their tanning rays were less likely to cause a sunburn.
What you need to know is UV light from indoor tanning can cause
premature aging, including wrinkles, sagging, and age spots.
So instead of making you look cool, it can make you look old.
And even worse, UV light can increase your risk of skin cancer, including melanoma, the deadliest form of skin cancer.
Especially when exposed at an early age.
And treatment can be surgery, and sometimes even chemotherapy and radiation.
In fact, current estimates are that 1 in 5 Americans develop skin cancer.
And 1 person dies from melanoma about every hour.
I don't want to be one of them.
I don't want to be one of them.
I don't want to be one of them.
This message brought to you by the American Academy of Dermatology.
I'm telling you, indoor tanning is not as safe as you think. In fact, indoor tanning is totally out.
We're back to the Total Education Hour, the Total Education Network. Please go to my website, totaltutor.org. You can listen to every one of the interviews in its entirety, the whole interview, like edited. So if you have a favorite author or celebrity that you want to listen to, you can go ahead and listen to them. One of the next topic, and this is really interesting, Darcy, when I started thinking about this, we've been talking about writing. Last week you missed it because we had a great person from the Miami Book Fair that talked about how to write that book. So let's talk about people that can't write. How are we going to discourage people from internet plagiarism?
Oh, goodness. Internet plagiarism. You know, honestly, I'm not quite sure why we would use the internet as our own. I say that as a professor who gets some of these papers that I've seen on the internet already. Why on earth would you want to trust somebody you don't know? It's kind of like copying off of the kid next to you. That's really not a good plan whatsoever. And actually, in this case, it's far worse. You can put anything you want on the internet.
Right, but I think when we're talking that topic, I think they're talking about a lot of these things. There are paper mills out here that people are writing research papers for people and trying to make a buck. Very interesting. I'm not going to mention the website, but now they're charging so cheap prices. I was looking at trying to get some commercials for one of my other stations and try to sell them because people were selling things for dirt cheap. Really, you think they're doing a great job. They're selling them for dirt cheap. But here's the fact. When we're talking about something like discouraging internet plagiarism, you have to really research things. And a lot of times, especially you're an English professor, you have a situation, Darcy, where you don't have really all the time in the world to go back and research that when you have to read 150 papers.
Oh, researching whether or not the student did that? Oh, I will tell you right now, we can tell if the student wrote that or not. Honestly, we've read other work from these students. We give them tests in class. We hear them speak. If there's something in that paper that does not seem like it fits their personality, we know. We always know. Especially when we get the same paper 3 times from the same class.
Same paper? What do you mean the same paper?
I've received the same paper before from different students in the same class. The exact same paper. Oh, yeah, it's fantastic, which is another reason why, as teachers, my suggestion is that you encourage them to send you an electronic copy and a paper copy, because if you have any question about it, you can check out that electronic copy and see if it's from the internet.
How could you do that?
So a lot of times there's something embedded inside of the paper. You'll notice this if you copy it and you paste it into a Word document. If they think that they're being clever and they copy it and paste it into the email, it's still there. If they save it into a Word document, there is information that is embedded in the paper. So you will be able to see it once you actually put it into a Word document that it was from the internet. Also, some other ways that you can do it is simply search that first line. And a lot of times other professors who have found it have also posted it to the internet. So there are many, many ways that these students can get caught. And honestly, it takes far less time to just write the paper.
Right, exactly. Write the paper. Great point.
Right.
Yeah. But that's simple, that kids might not know this. And I think high school teachers out there, if you're teaching English and you're asked for that electronic copy.
Right.
Because, so you're spotting it through that. But Darcy, you're
it's
kind of
simple.
techie.
Oh, but it's so easy. You
out.
see it on the Word doc. Okay. You can see it on the Word document. A lot of times it looks like a little tiny circle. I think that we need a diagram. We need a diagram.
Well, we need a diagram, and you could be diagramming it now for the television
there we
viewers,
go.
especially.
We'll have to have a big talk about it sometime of how we can spot these illegal papers.
So the way I would say it is research.
Right.
Research, teachers, research. Maybe have them, and this is my opinion, have them write some cold writing in class. Have them write a 3-paragraph essay, a 5-paragraph essay, and see if they have any sense and rhyme or reason to writing. Then if you see something that looks like a tremendous work, then you're going to have to do a little more research.
Honestly, yeah.
Or have them where you have to write it yourself. You can do some research in class and present it and see, do they really understand how to speak? Because speaking, writing, they go hand in hand, don't they?
They really do, honestly. A lot of times I don't recommend that students write the way that they speak because we do use so much slang.
Right.
However, if you are capable of speaking in an academic manner, then once you get used to that, writing in the academic manner is going to be so much easier for you.
That is absolutely right, Darcy. No, I'm just kidding. So, I mean, my thought in all this is research. See what the kid's capable of doing. Look at their test scores. I hate to say this, but look at possibly their application essay. Maybe they did that as well. But doing research, go talk to other professors and say, so is James a really good writer?
Right.
Well, I just got a piece that I think I really want to get him a possibility of maybe considering writing as a career. Then we find out that wasn't James who wrote it.
Right. Something else that I always suggest is having an opening prompt. Whenever students come into your classroom, if you do suspect something, or it is just a really good practice to get into, is every time they come in, just have a prompt up on the board and say, look, I want you to write a paragraph and turn it in at the end of the class. By looking at that, you can familiarize yourself with their writing, and if you see something that looks like it's not something that they were capable of writing, you're going to be able to spot it right off.
So what's your definition of plagiarism?
My definition of plagiarism is anything that you did not come up with on your own.
The idea?
You know, that gets into is there really any new ideas in the world? Honestly, if you're capable of expressing it in a way that you are able to relate to and is not directly from another individual's thoughts, statements, information, background, then yeah, it is your opinion and it is something original. But once you start actually getting into that taking of someone else's idea or taking someone else's words, that's plagiarism.
And taking someone else's words, word for word, you're talking about them.
Word for word, or even just trying to paraphrase it. You are still taking their idea.
Then you have to absolutely go ahead and quote that.
Right, exactly. If you're quoting it, and then you have to cite the source too.
So what's hard is there's so many writers out there with blogging and all these different things. People could take ideas and make them their own, and you won't know. So how many people do you think that you don't catch that
How many people
plagiarize?
do? Oh, I personally, none.
Oh.
I catch them all. No, honestly, there are probably a few people that have kind of slipped through the cracks, but honestly, like I said, there are no new ideas, and if you did get that idea from someone else, first of all, you should feel horrible as a person. Second of all, maybe you did a good enough job of making it look like something that you actually believe.
Plagiarism is cheating.
Absolutely.
Bottom line, you get kicked out of college.
Oh, you'll get an unforgivable F.
So exactly.
It
No, I
follows you forever.
thought they first kick you out. I guess they changed that.
Unforgivable F, and it follows you forever.
Well, it might follow you forever, but still.
Oh,
the thing
Job
is
World does not like it.
Oh yeah, the job world doesn't. There's not really any jobs right now, so I think so this whole plagiarism thing, discouraging it. How would you scare students? I like that because we have to scare them. Yes, especially getting close to Halloween. Let's scare a student. What is your riot act about plagiarism?
Okay, honestly, the best way that I explain to students what can happen to them is I actually do know an individual who got in trouble when he was in college for plagiarism. He received an unforgivable F, and even though he does have 2 degrees, he's incapable of receiving a job, regardless of what it is that he tries to do. He has 2 very good degrees. However, that unforgivable F, as soon as they check his background, it pops up, and they don't want that.
So the GPA, but they ended up still graduating, right?
He ended up still graduating, but he had an unforgivable F. So that is still permanently on his record.
Wow.
Yeah, it follows you.
And cheating is a situation. So what recommendations would you give teachers that are professors or high school teachers to stop plagiarism from happening?
To help stop plagiarism, honestly, teach them how to cite the ideas that they find. The encouragement of honesty, I think, is really the key thing that we need to point out. I mean, we always use the phrase, you catch more flies with honey. It's much nicer to come to the students and say, hey, I know you don't mean to take this idea from someone. I know you don't mean to do this. It's so wrong. It's so horrible. You would never do this. But to come to them and say, look, I know you're all going to come in here and lie and say that this is not someone else's idea. I think that's a horrible, horrible way to approach it.
Terrible. Completely.
And it's not going to get the results that you want. You want them to be positive thinking individuals. Why not encourage them in the right direction?
And how do we encourage them in the right direction to become better writers?
Like I said, show them how to cite examples and how to explain a little bit better on these, even if these are thoughts from other people, how do they explain their take on it? And that's even going to give them a jumping off point and help them to create their own ideas.
Why don't we teach that in high school?
We do.
Some schools.
Poorly.
Some schools.
All schools are actually supposed to teach that. They are supposed to teach research and research papers. The problem right now is the education of our teachers. The teachers don't know how to do it. The students aren't going to know how to do it. It's as simple as that.
So you should be doing classes training teachers on how to do this.
Oh, goodness, yes. Yes,
Because-
and they should also have degrees in what they teach.
Well, so just meaning like you have
Not just teaching degrees.
not just teaching degrees. Say I got myself an English degree. So Darcy, you really put some light on the, discouraging internet plagiarism. So I think that the bottom line is to do it yourself,
Exactly.
regardless. If you're not very good at writing, get a tutor,
Right.
get somebody who's going to help you, but not do it for you.
Exactly.
Because a lot of times people have done everything for you. So that means that's all we have to do about this. And my thought is writing is something that takes practice. You have to practice. One thing, Darcy, is I don't know the last time I've written a research paper, maybe 8 years ago. I'd love to just get back, practice doing that. Well, I'm writing my book right now.
I can give you an assignment if you would like.
No, I don't have time. I'm writing my book now. You know, here's a funny joke about that. Jake is writing his book right now, and we're talking about how to write that book. He's spending 6 hours a day writing his book, and he told people that on the show last week. 6 hours a day.
That's
fantastic.
I
wish I would have. They said, yeah, that's fantastic. You're writing 6 hours a day. I don't have that time. I'm doing about an hour a day. But I am working on that book with Jarrett. We're hopefully at one point going to have that. But I can't wait to talk to the people about how to write that book. And I won't plagiarize. My ideas are definitely different than anyone else's in the world. And Darcy will attest to that one.
Yeah.
My ideas are completely different. And even if you...
Groundbreaking.
Groundbreaking. So I want to thank all my awesome guests today. And I'm not going to go through them all because they were all fantastic. But I want to thank my producers, Christina and Chris, television and radio. Wow, we are growing the Total Education Network. And Darcy, it's great that you're part of this, and I really enjoyed all the topics. But go to the website, TotalTutor.org, and you can listen to each individual interview on my blog section. It has all of that stuff there. So how do you write the blog? You provide contacts. So I really, thinking of contacts. I appreciate you being here, and I hope that everyone listens next week. Good night, everyone.
Square. But Patty's only seen the sights a girl can see from Brooklyn Heights. What a crazy pair.
Oh, my Patty. Did you find all your files? Finally. Who knew it would be this much work when Richard and I decided to retire? Well, what are you going to do first? Oh, we're heading down to Brooklyn Heights and starting on that Social Security paperwork. Why would you do that? What do you mean? Well, it's so much easier just to log on to socialsecurity.gov and file online. Well, what if I need to know how much money I'll be getting? Online. What if our address changes? Online. What if I want Medicare, too? Online. So how did you get so darn smart anyway? Online.
I've lived in Delhi all my life, and I have seen the weather change. The monsoon this year has been more erratic than I can ever remember. We've had, I think, highest temperature in the last 50 years. Growing up, you'd wait for what we call an andhi, a squall. This year, there's not a drop. Some estimates say 2017 Delhi, 15 million people are going to be without water.
You've probably seen this before. Hide and seek? Well, sort of. Kids will often withdraw when their needs aren't being met. I know. It would be easier if they just walked up and said, hey, I'm feeling like I need a little one-on-one time. But kids have their own language, and it's up to us parents to learn it. Once you figure out how to speak your kid's language, well, you don't really have to say much at all. A thought from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
The American Legion. We're a powerful force for the nation. We pledge ourselves to our veterans, our youth, a strong national defense, and Americanism. These four pillars shape our work and what we do for America. We work relentlessly within our four pillars of service, and we succeed. We're committed to making sure all veterans receive the benefits they deserve for the sacrifices they've made in service to America. We support and promote citizenship and integrity in America's future leaders. We know what policies, tools, and manpower our military needs to protect this great country. We fight to get these things done. We're patriots through and through. We promote and defend these values every day in communities across the nation. Go to Legion.org to find out more about the American Legion's commitment of service to America.
So you've got a song about where to call for government information?
Check this out. We got the benefits and services that'll make you smile to get the answers you need. Put us on speed dial.
That is gold, Your Honor.
1-800-FIT-INFO.